Hi everyone, I'm Daniel, back with SuperFang99. As usual, we're doing the first of the two finales in the Dream Eaters campaign, because it's actually two mini campaigns. This one is on the dreaming side, and we are going to be talking about the scenario where the gods dwell. What happened at the end of the last one? Where are we? When are we?
Yeah, the white ship, captained by the captain of the white ship, which I think was his name,
Yeah,
um, brought us to the cold wastes where Onon Kudath seemingly resides. Um, and we get here, and you will scale the peaks of Onon Kudath, and we're gonna find out what's going on. Yeah. Oh, that's right. This is the plateau of Leng, of course. Okay, that is what's going on.
right. Okay.
Yes. Anyway.
Why are we doing this,
That's
by
really
the
it.
way? Do you remember, like, what the point of... What's our mission here? Just to
We
find Kadath?
have to. I don't know.
That's...
Why are we here again?
Why are we doing this?
Let's see.
I
Blah blah blah. Farewell.
I will say, like, yeah, I know that there's like a story here in the dreaming side, and there's a story in the waking side, but since you're shuffling back and forth between these campaigns, it is a little hard to keep track of like what's going on and
I
why.
think it's. Yeah. Okay. That's right. So yeah, because the cat told us that they know that we're gonna get to Kadath. We need to
hmm
find the land of the Great Ones, and everything's gonna work out when we get there.
Everything
That is
else will fall into
literally word for
place.
word what the cat says. Yeah.
Well, flimsy plot lines aside,
Yeah.
what
Okay.
happens?
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so we're here at Plateau of Length. So we gather some stuff, we put some locations out, and that's the fastest setup that we've seen in a while.
I love it.
All
So,
right.
Plateau of Lang itself.
Yep,
And
Plateau of
our
Length. Also, yes, we have 7 Doomarth on our agenda. Ooh, they centered the text. Spooky. And also our Act 2 per clues. That's all we need.
okay, we can do that.
Yeah, here's the Plateau of Lang. 3 shot 1 per clues. When an enemy attempts to spawn in an empty location, and there are no empty locations in play, spawn them here instead.
Hmm.
I think this has happened to me maybe 0 times,
I
but it's
think
certainly possible.
I think it's happened when you like leave another enemy around. I think.
I guess. I mean, they could spawn at the Onyx Castle though.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
yeah,
So this is a good effect. I think they need to have these sorts of safeguards in the finales, especially. Like I think the Forgotten Age finale does this too. Like you have to pull
yeah,
out
that
a
sounds right.
location for the cultists that spawn in empty locations.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Anyway, cool. It's on the first location.
So we got the Cold Waste. That's why we're here. 2 shot 1 per clues. After you reveal one of the bad symbol tokens while investigating here, take a damage or lose an action. Pretty cold.
Mm-hmm.
It's a frost token. Um,
Two low shroud locations to start off. We better
it's
get
pretty
going
good.
quickly.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we probably advanced. Also because we can't go into the door of the Monastery of Leng.
Nope.
Um,
We can go to the
but
Onyx Gates though.
yeah. Do you want to check it out?
Sure, why not?
Ah!
12
There are
clues!
12 clues here. Yes, and 1 shroud, but +1 per player shroud. So in theory, 5 shroud with 4 players. However, Forrest, after it is revealed, check the campaign log. Remove 1 clue from Onyx Gates for each tally mark recorded next to evidence of Kadath. So that's why we did all of that. And funnily, okay, hold on. I just need to double check because later on, blah blah blah. Yeah, if there's no clues on it, you know who can pull the clues off of it without investigating it?
No, never heard of this ally.
Oh God, she breaks everything. I love her.
Okay.
Anyway,
Should we... Yeah, so we needed probably enough clues at this point, right?
yep, 2 per clues. We got 2 per at the start. We get to the Monastery of Leng, and there's a weird stone idol there or something. Story. Spawn the High Priest not to be described enemy at the Monastery of Leng, as well as revealing the Monastery of Leng, I think.
This guy's cool.
Yeah, this guy's cool. He looks like Haster, if I'm completely honest.
Take one
Um,
more.
yeah. Agent of the Other Gods, 5 fight, 3 per investigator health, 3 evade, monster, cultist, avatar, elite, alert, master, retaliate. He has all the keywords.
So many.
This enemy cannot make attacks of opportunity. That's nice. Okay. Free trigger. If this enemy is exhausted, spend 1 per clues. Remember that you stunned the priest. Until the end of the scenario, this enemy gets -3 fight. Also has victory 2.
Why?
Also, yeah, right. 3 shroud, 2 per clues. Free trigger. Investigators of the Monastery of Leng spend 1 per clues as a group. Remember that the investigators maneuvered the priest closer. And we have our new act. First of all, as an action, if an investigator maneuvered the priest closer and an investigator stunned the priest, you defeat the high priest not to be described. So I like to believe that there's a pit, the Monastery of the Leng, which is in the image, and you just push him down.
Yep.
That is my theory. Anyway, the objective is to defeat the high priest not to be described. So either by killing him normally or by doing this action, which is honestly the way I normally do it, because 3 per can be a lot.
I know. I don't really. I mean, I like that there's a choice and this tells a cool little story, but it is funny that why would you just try to kill him? Just
yeah,
maybe in solo.
Maybe. Yeah.
Just do 3
5
damage.
fight is still tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny though. You can do the stun the priest and then makes it easier to fight, but at that point
That's
you
true.
might as well just get another clue.
Exactly. Alrighty. Let's advance the act. The thing is defeated at this point. So let's see. If you defeated him, you strike him down. Let's see. Yeah, I think you do actually topple him to the gaping well. There you go.
There it is.
And that's it. End of the scenario. Why does this allow you to go past the Onyx Gates now?
What?
With the monster dispatched, you can explore its monastery in relative peace.
I mean, he wasn't doing any attacks of opportunity in the first place. Like, seems like it's a different location. I don't know.
Right, I'm just wondering why was he blocking us from going to the Onyx Castle?
I don't know.
Like, why did we need to do this? I'm now just imagining a scenario where we go up to the Onyx Gate and we're like, yes, we found Kadath. We need to go through here. Let me just quickly walk up to this monastery and kick the guy down the well.
Well, the act told us to do it. That's why I am
exactly. Would you kindly knock this guy down the well? Anyway, all right. Well, I guess we got to go to the Onyx Gate and have no clues on it to advance. So either, of course, you can get the clues off, which is how you're supposed to do it.
So there's not anything per investigator. So isn't this just like kind of absurd in high player counts?
Yeah, 5 shroud. Yeah.
I mean, I know that scales, but like there's probably still only like 2 or 3 clues on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So surely someone can pass those tests.
Most likely.
But if you're playing one player or 2 players, still the same, but just easier. I don't know. It's just a weird scaling. Like, because usually the number of clues is the limiter because it's the number of actions you need to take. But
yeah. And I think that, they try to do that with the Shroud where it's like, oh, you'll fail some of them, therefore waste some actions, or I don't know.
At this point in the campaign?
Right. That's possible.
Just throw your read the signs out and you're good.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway. Okay, let's reveal the... And we advance and then it reveals it, right?
Yeah, alright. We have gotten to where the gods dwell. We lose our clues, and then we get to the actual scenario. This was basically just a prelude to what the actual scenario is, which is the grand design.
Okay. Interlude.
Yeah. So you go up to the place, the castle, the Onyx Castle. That's right. And no one's here.
Nope. No gods.
Abandoned. No gods. Virgil is like, "What's going on?" And first thing we do is reveal the Onyx Castle and place everyone there, and we remove everyone in the everything else from the game. So bye bye.
I'll let you do that. And then we read some more text.
Yeah, so if Randolph survived, aka he is with us, we get to chatting with him, and dun dun dun, he's not Randolph Carter.
Nope.
No. He kills Virgil Gray, I think. Yep. And he's like, "It's me." Is he actually is he actually Nyarlathotep? Is that just what this is?
He's a mask of, right?
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so we have to remove him from whoever's deck he was in, including if he was in play, which is hilarious.
Yep, sorry.
Sorry.
Did you buy charisma just for him? Oops.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So, I think that's right. If he did not survive the voyage, he just shows up here and he's like, "Hello, I'm bad," and then he kills Virtual Dragon. Oh no, I guess yeah. Okay. Uh, that's it. Blah blah blah. Okay. If the black cat is at your side, you're like, okay, let's stop him. Grand Design 5, which is the
The setup.
things that we need to do. So the real scenario setup. Okay, so we get 1+1 per copies of Nyarlathotep, shuffle them together, and put them into the encounter deck?
Yes.
Yes. So for 2-player, that's 3 copies. And 2 of them we will never see again, I think. I'll just put them there.
Until later. But yes.
Yeah, possibly. We also get some more enemies, so we shuffle the Crawling Mist, every copy of Myriad Forms and Whispering Chaos into the encounter deck, along with the encounter discard pile.
It's a big encounter deck at this point, I believe.
Yeah, so I actually don't know exactly how much, but it's in the 30 to 40 range.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we get the Forsaken Towers. So there are 4 of these. Sorry, 6 of these.
There's 6.
You have to choose 4 of them. Bup, 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 bup. And when this is blood yeah. All right, and the other 2, which we'll look at later, might have to do stuff. And we have 4 towers and 4 cardinal directions. Therefore, we have the northern, western, southern, and eastern tower.
Mm-hmm.
And that will matter for later.
Never eat soggy waffles.
Yeah, exactly.
Here you go.
All right, our new act, Truth and Lies. We have to defeat Nyarlathotep. So, as an action, you can spend a clue to look at the top 3 cards of the encounter deck. Draw each of those cards with the hidden keyword, and discard the rest. Objective: find and expose Nyarlathotep's true form by adding copies of Nyarlathotep to the victor display. If 1+1 per copies are in the victor display, advance, aka all the ones that were added in the encounter deck.
At this point, You're like, what?
Yeah, you're like, how the fuck do we do that? So what do you want to read first, Nyarlathotep or the Whispering Chaos?
So yeah, bring them both out here. Because like first you're on this Great Hall location and you're like, what do I do? I apparently need to pick up maybe the encounter cards or something, maybe. Right. So where do you get some clues from? Maybe that will help clear things up. So let's just like go to a location first.
The Forsaken Tower of Infinite Truth, 2 shroud, 1 per clues. You cannot use this location's action ability unless another card explicitly allows you to do so. What does that mean? Well, its action ability is Evade. Choose and reveal a copy of Nyarlathotep from your hand and attempt to evade it as if it were at your location, using Intellect instead of Agility. If you succeed, you add that copy of Nyarlathotep to the victor display. If you fail, it attacks you and then is shuffled into the encounter deck. Okay, so first of all, we need a copy of Nyarlathotep in my hand. Okay, that makes sense. Then, we need to somehow trigger this action ability, but we can't do that unless something lets us do that.
Behold.
What lets us do that?
All right, let's see. We've got a Whispering Chaos, which has North in parentheses, which is, well, while this card is in your hand, you may activate the ability on the Northern Tower if you reveal it from your hand, and you discard the card if you do it successfully. Otherwise, it goes back in the encounter deck to be found, hopefully quickly again. So you need to collect one of these, and, well, one of these, and then the particular one that matches the location you want to go to.
Yes, and yeah, there is 1 copy of each, north, east, south, and west, and they all do the same thing, but just at the northern, southern, western, eastern towers.
Mm-hmm. So, let's look at Nyarlathotep. Here's one of them.
Stalker Among the Stars. 3 fight, 7 health, 3 evade. Why does it say health? I don't know. Ancient One, elite. Peril, hidden, massive. So it's hidden. So when you draw it, you have to put it in your hand. AKA the Revelation text. Secretly add Nyarlathotep to your hand. If you speak of this card while it is in your hand and unrevealed, you are driven insane. Some pretty intense mechanical text there.
I think this is great. I the first time I played this, I was with someone who was just like, I don't know, because they got this I think first before we saw anything else.
Yeah,
and they're like, I can't say anything, but very confused. And if you're, I think if you've played Carcosa already, it's cool to go through this campaign because you kind of get the idea of the mechanic. But if this is your first go at the hidden cards, I think this can be a little daunting, maybe. But if you're been playing Arkham a little while, it's no big deal.
Yeah. And it definitely leads to some awesome moments where, like, for example, at the beginning of a round one time, I was like, does anyone want to do something right now? And someone was like, yeah, I would like to go over here, please. And I was like, you go do that, champ.
There's one more piece of this puzzle, which is the central location here, which allows you to choose another investigator at your location, add a hidden card in your hand to their hand.
Yeah.
So if you realize that you can't evade using intellect, you can give someone else that North Tower card, the Whispering Chaos, and maybe they'll go do it. And you hope that they have a Nyarlathotep in their hand. But the fun part is always like, you give this to someone and they're like, I don't have one of these. I have a different hidden card. There's a lot of other hidden cards in this particular.
You can also, of course, give Nyarlathotep to them as well, because that is hidden.
Sure, would be another action though.
Exactly. But let's say they maybe were like, I could probably go to the North Tower if I really wanted to, right? Like that's hinting that they have the North one. You can be like, here's something for you to deal with, right?
Yep, that's
so
true. Yeah, if you can be a little clever or creative, depends on how much your group wants to, talk in character or not too.
Yeah.
I
have a intense feeling of wanting to go to the North Tower for some reason.
I'm drawn. Of course, if you don't know what the Forsaken Towers are asking you to do yet until you go to them all. So it's pretty good practice just to go exploring first. So let's see what the other ones that we have in this particular playthrough are.
Oh gosh, this one. Of Illusion and Myth, 5 Shroud, same text, but it's an action to investigate, and when you do, you reveal it, and if you succeed, you add the copy. I guess technically you also get a clue. It doesn't say you don't.
True.
That's weird.
And this one uses the health, so this time it would be a 7 Shroud.
Oh Jesus! At least for that one, right? I think because they all have spoiler. They all have different numbers.
They do.
Yeah. Also different effects.
This one is 5 health, but 5 fight.
Yeah.
Easier to.
Also Hunter.
That's
not
strange.
Massive. Yeah. Alert as well.
This one's 3, 4, 4. Yeah. So they're all a little different. It's just kind of a little bit of fun number soup, I guess.
Oh wait. Yeah. All right. That is the Eastern Tower. Southern Tower of Life and Death. Same text. 2 Shroud. It's a fight with your willpower. There you go.
Yeah. So again, uses the fight value on their card. They really don't like you using agility or combat in this one, huh?
Yeah, it's like you got to do it using your weird stats.
Do it using the weird stat, but there's not like investigate using. Oh wait, maybe there is. We'll see.
Okay, this one's just evaded.
Just evade.
Yeah, this one's evade, and I think the other two might be fight and investigate. No, this is fight, but this is an actual fight.
It's just fight, okay.
And then this is just do a willpower test against a tell.
So you're not allowed to use agility for anything.
No, this should be a parlay.
Yes, it should be. Talk to Nyarlathotep.
Yeah.
But
and then afterwards you play grift.
There's 2 willpower tests. There's 1 combat and 2 intellect, I guess. This is 1 agility, I guess.
Yeah, 2 intellect, 2 willpower. Okay, so it's mostly mental.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah.
The fighters do have something to do, in case you're worried about that part of the balance, which is a little annoying, like, because this is kind of like the fun part that you're trying to do the objective for, and you don't want the fighters to be like, I'm left out of the cool thing, but this really is, you go get the clues, you try to get the hidden cards out using clues, so it does make some sense here.
Sure.
Okay, so if you've done this 3 times, or 4 or 5, depending on how many people are playing the game, then we flip.
You advance.
Yeah.
Before we get there, do you want to talk about the agenda?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So by this time, you've definitely at least flipped the first one. Don't try to run. Okay. If it is Act 4, which is right now, place clues on each Forsaken Tower location until it has clues equal to its clue value. reveal each copy of Nyarlathotep in each investigator's hand. Each investigator who did not reveal a copy of Nyarlathotep must either take a damage or a horror. For each copy of Nyarlathotep revealed by an investigator, that investigator must choose. They attack that investigator and are shuffled back into the encounter deck, or they attack that investigator 3 times, but is returned to their hand. So, basically, for each investigator, if they don't have a Nyarlathotep in their hand, they're taking 1 and 1. If they do, it either attacks them and is shuffled back, or it attacks them 3 times.
1 or 1, right?
1 or 1. That's right. So, not even that bad.
Yeah, so don't hold on to him for too long is kind of what this is going for.
Yep, exactly.
Cool.
That being said, at this point, if you're in Act 4 and this is flipped, you're going at a pretty good pace.
Yeah.
So ideally, that is when that would happen. The back of this is the same exact thing, if I recall.
Mm-hmm. How many doom is this one? 5.
5.
It gets shorter, 5. Right?
It does get shorter because after this one, I think it's just over.
Yeah.
Yes. Driven Insane. So total, you have 17 turns. That's not so bad so far.
Although
probably
it can take a while to get through these, as we'll see.
Exactly.
The encounter cards.
You could probably get through this act in 17 turns, and this is the last act, right?
Nope, one more.
There is one more act. Oh, we should look what it is. Oh, hey, let's see. If the Black Cat knows the truth and the investigators possess the silver key. Well, the Black Cat knows the truth if it was searching for the truth, and it was searching for the truth if it had a hunch. And it only has a hunch if you didn't share any information on either side at any point. And also you had to make sure that Randolph, Virgil survived and all the stuff. You had to fail no time.
Yeah, and you had to get the silver key on the other side and give it to these guys. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you didn't do any of that, by the way, at the bottom, a very small text. You just proceed to R1. The scenario is over. You
win.
Did it. You defeated Nyarlathotep. Good job. However, if it did not, the Black Cat appears on your shoulder and you have the silver key and you can use it to expose its true shape. Okay, here we go. Everyone loses their clues. Each copy of Nyarlathotep in the victory display, so not all of them, just the ones you defeated, not all 5.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, let's say 3 for 2-player. They combine to form a single enemy with fight and evade values equal to the highest fight and evade value among combined copies of itself. Health, damage, and horror victory values equal to the total, this is important, total combined health, damage, horror, victory values of all combined copies of itself. And all keywords from all combined copies of itself.
So this
I love how it says, oh yeah, and it spawns it at the center.
Yep. So this one
so in this case,
health of
this
7
one would get
plus 5 plus 4.
16.
Yeah. That's not so bad.
Would have not so bad. It would have 5 fight and 4 evade.
That's a
it
little
would
tough.
have massive, hunter, and alert. It would have victory 6.
Yay!
And it would deal 1 damage and 3 horror. Honestly, that's not so bad.
That's not a bad one. We could probably deal with that.
Yeah,
maybe.
And you'll tell, or you can tell at least that because the number of Nyarlathoteps that appear is 1 plus 1 per player, it's kind of like its health scales by per player.
That's
right.
True. Speaking of health,
Speaking of health. Okay. Nyarlathotep's true shape gets -1 health for each clue the investigators possess. So if you didn't have any clues left over in the last one, too bad.
Well, you lose them anyway.
Right, but if there were no clues on the locations.
Oh, well, if you...
Because they only refill from the agenda flip.
Yeah, you're probably not going to flip the agenda again. Yeah, okay.
Nope. And then you have to defeat the thing, and it's dead. And that's R2.
I've never done it.
So, I have never done this. This is incredibly difficult. Not only do you have to do the rest of the campaign perfectly, you have to do it where you don't give any help to either side. You have to do this really fast, because it's an entire additional act at the end of this, and normally I barely have enough time to do the first part.
Yep. I kind of wish that we got the chance and didn't have to waste so much time in that first act.
Yeah.
But
I honestly, what I think they could do is that this last act could have been like an act and agenda, like they do normally with the weird stuff.
Right.
Where it has like its own doom. Maybe instead of having the doom threshold, you get rid of this agenda. Every doom you place on this, like it attacks everybody or something. I don't know. Right.
Yeah. I agree with that. It would be nice to have some time. But that's also a problem. I think we could talk about the player scaling in this one too.
Right.
So I believe that there was always a lot of discussion about if you play this solo, it's really hard because
Yes,
digging
because
things out of the encounter deck takes a lot longer, and the movement tax is also pretty tough here.
yes, like the things that scales is how many Nyarlathotep steps you have to deal with, and therefore it kind of scales with the encounter cards you draw at least because you're drawing less of them, but there are less of them you have to deal with. But that just means that there's more variance in when you're going to get the Nyarlathotep step because there's only right for one player. It's only two in the deck.
That's right.
Um, but also you have the chance that you'll get both the correct Whispering Chaos and Annihilate in your hand that's good to do it with is really low because of the variance. And what that ultimately means is that one person, for example, in True Solo, would have to manage the same number of encounter cards as if in 4-player, meaning that they probably have 0 cards in their hand.
That's the next
Um,
part what we're going to talk about is that in order to make this whole thing work, we're not talking about the final act here, just even getting there. You have to be able to spend clues and draw extra cards unless you're
yeah,
really lucky and just drew them naturally.
yeah,
And there's more than just the Nyarlathotep and the Whispering Chaos hidden cards. There's lots of other junk that you'll get that'll be really hard to get rid of. And yeah, your hand size can be a problem. You know what? Don't play this with Patrice.
nope. You're never gonna draw any cards ever again.
Nope.
Um, yeah. Actually, so question: if you have 5 hidden cards in your hand, do you just not draw cards anymore?
Yep.
Amazing. You're Norman Withers.
With the weakness on top. Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is bad because generally in this game you use your cards to do things
Yeah, indeed. This is
like
indeed a card game.
passing these tests that you have to deal with. So
Yeah. Oh
it,
gosh.
it is really no matter who you are, junking your hand up with these hidden cards, like you can't hold on to more than one of the Whispering Chaos and one of the Nyarlathoteps. Like it's really hard to stockpile these. As much as you might
Yeah.
want to, you have to kind of give them away.
Yeah, and the worst part about it being in True Solo, for example, is that if you're holding on to a Naruto for a long time to try and find a good place, then the agenda really screws you over by having you make the choice of it attacking you 3 times to make sure you don't have to do it over again. Um, whereas in higher player counts, it's more feasible that someone has a Naruto, someone else has a Whispering Chaos, and they can give them to each other to be able to do it to the right place.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would be remiss if I don't talk about this, but
Yeah.
these guys have health and a fight value and an evade value and victory value, which means all this actually cares about is how many of them are in the victory display. There's another
But how
way.
would you defeat them if they go into your hand?
There's another way to draw these without getting them into your hand.
Yes, there is.
And let me introduce you to my good friend On the Hunt.
Oh my
Or
god.
Kicking the Hornet's Nest.
Or Zoe's weakness? Does that do elite?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, let me just check.
Sure. Anyway,
Well, I found another one.
Yeah.
But
what's it? What's the other
did you know that Nyarlathotep killed Hank Samson's par?
one? Yep, that would be another one. Those aren't non-elites? I thought for sure they were.
Where's paw just says discard cards from the top encounter deck until an enemy is discarded.
Wow, okay.
That's crazy.
Okay, that's another way to do it.
Smite the Wicked. That's what I'm looking for. Smite the Wicked. Let's see. Smite the Wicked does not say non-elite, so Smite the Wicked works.
Maybe
Let's
it's
see.
the advanced non-elite
does-
or one.
Does Nyarlathotep know where Jenny Barnes' sister is? What is that card called?
No, searching Urizzi attaches to a location.
Oh, you're right. That doesn't have to be that.
That would be funny though.
That would be really, really funny.
Okay, right. So with On the Hunt and Kicking the Hornet's Nest or these other cards that just say spawn an enemy engaged with you, it's an enemy. It doesn't go into your hand. It bypasses the normal draw the card effect because you're not really drawing it.
Yeah, it doesn't say draw them. It says spawn them.
So they just go into play and you can wallop on it as normal. Goes to the victory display. Good job.
Yay.
If you have On the Hunt 3, you look through the entire encounter deck. You pick which one you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get 3 money for your trouble.
You get 3 resources. That's so funny. Yep. So that's like the classic way to beat this if you are having a difficult time otherwise.
Yeah. Actual non-cheese tech is First Watch. It's phenomenal.
Yes,
you can just
then
hand
you're
them out
allowed
to
to
whoever
know.
wants to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. There's probably some other things like Gloria does a pretty good job of filtering out the non Nyarlathotep or Whispering Chaos token cards. Scrying, any of the things that look at the encounter deck, which I think is fine. I mean, that's not going to really break the scenario too much. Not as much as On the Hunt does. Okay. Um, that is the scenario. There is a
That is the
couple
scenario.
more wrinkles because we'll look at the encounter cards next. But I also want to point out now that we're here that the tokens
Yeah.
are actually really rough.
Yes, they are. So we have skulls, which are minus X number of the current act. So up to 4, unless you're going the secret route, which can go minus 5 in the very end there, which is really rough.
Yeah, -4 though for the skulls at the time in which it matters, I think is a big deal.
Yep.
There's
All
3
right.
of them in the bag at this point.
Yes, there are. All right. Cultist. Revealing a token. If you fail, place a doom on the current agenda.
No.
That can speed you up.
Okay. Tablet.
Tablet, -4. Oh, God, that's right. -4. If you fail, choose and reveal a copy of Nyarlathotep in your hand. It attacks you and is shoveled in the counter deck. You don't get a choice on that. And with a -4, you're probably going to fail. Unless you are up 4 all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's rough.
Which is
And,
hard to do
Elder...
when you don't have cards in hand anymore.
Exactly. Elder Thing, it's a 0. And the Black Cat reminds you it's all a dream. It's just another 0, which is kind of helpful, but not really.
Yeah, it's a little sad. So I think these tokens are great for a finale. It just makes the scenario that much tougher when there's already some variance, I think.
Yep.
Cool. Let's take a look at these encounter cards. Or do you want to look at the other Nyarlathotep's? The ones we didn't see?
Oh, sure, yeah. So we got 2 we didn't see here. This one is 265. Hunter deals a damage. That's it. 433. It has retaliate. So that's the one we didn't see, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
2 damage as well. Sorry, 1 damage. I guess we missed out on both the damage ones. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, that happens.
Yeah. So yes, in a 5-player, I actually don't think does it have 5 of it? Yes. In 5-player, it's a 5, 25/5 enemy that deals 3 damage, 3 horror, and has victory 12.
Now that is an
I can't do
enemy
that.
I want to kill.
Yeah, I could give a victory 10. Anyway,
All right, what we got over here? So we already saw these guys, but there's a bunch of other new ones. So we've got another Dole.
yeah, the Dole of the Wastes. It spawns either in the Cold Wastes or the Great Hall, which is the middle place if
Mhm.
it shows up in the second act. It has Prey, which does matter because it has a spawn keyword.
Mhm.
Lowest agility, Hunter. It's just a big giant thing with victory 1.
Yeah. If this shows up at the beginning, great. If this shows up at the Great Hall, bad.
Oh god. Yeah, oh god.
You just don't have time for this guy because really
Yeah.
what you're trying to do most of the scenario is, hooray, it's a cultist set. Here is a special cultist.
The Liar with No Face. 3 fight, 4 health, 3 evade. Monster Cultist Servitor. Prey. Most cards in hand with Hunter. Whenever he attacks you, if a Whispering Chaos is in your hand, reveal it, and it deals +2 damage. It'll deal you 2 and 2, rather than just 2 horror. This guy is very, very annoying.
Yeah. This guy needs to go.
Yeah.
So on this map, like evading these hunter enemies is basically a terrible idea.
Yeah.
They'll be coming after you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We have some more hidden cards along with the ones we saw before and some other ones from earlier. These are all 3 versions of Restless Journey.
Yes. They all say you cannot commit more than 1 card to a skill test each round. By the way, this means that Min, if you draw this and have the king in yellow, you can't do anything.
You just have to
Um,
pass that test without committing anything, right?
Correct. So you have to
Or
use a
changing
free
units.
trigger. Right, yeah. Free trigger to discard Restless Journey and test intellect. This one has combat. This one has agility. If you fail, you place a doom on the current agenda. So regardless, you're discarding it, but it's a question of whether or not you don't want to place a doom.
I think you can discard it and commit more than one
Uh, hmm,
because
that
it's
makes sense to me.
not in
Yeah,
play anymore. Yeah.
it's not in your hand, or like, well, yeah, I guess. Well, it doesn't even say that it has to be in your hand for that effect to be true, but whatever. Oh,
Right.
actually,
Yeah, this is the hidden cards are as if they were in your threat area, basically.
oh yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
So
So
yeah,
yeah, I guess you're right.
one for each of these stats, no willpower, but if you get the wrong one, you can give it to one of your friends with that Great Hall ability.
That is true.
So how do you usually deal with these? Do you just leave them in your hand forever, or do you try to get rid of them? Because it is a
Yeah,
chance, right? If you fail,
yeah. I really, most of the time, these aren't worth it. I think, unless you're specifically skill investigators like Min, like Silas,
mhm.
like Winifred Habermock, like those are the times where you like really need to do it. But if I'm like Leo Anderson, like I'm not committing cards to anything. Like what am I doing? Um, so
But it does junk up your hand.
it does, but at a certain point, especially later on, your hand usually goes down in size anyway. So it's like,
Mm,
what am I even doing with these hidden cards? Like, yes, it matters for the hand size, but maybe I'm not even getting to that point anyway.
true, true.
Um, so it's definitely a balance. So
One other piece of hot tech: if you use the Eye of Truth, which came out in this set, I think,
sure, yeah,
it will count
it counts
towards
for all of them, right?
any of them. Yeah, because
Yeah,
the parentheses is just a subtitle.
yep,
That's actually pretty good. +4 on these tests. Yeah.
that is pretty nice.
Okay. Last one is Abandoned by the Gods. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, this card, Peril, test 3 willpower. For each point you fail by, you must choose a different number between 0 and 4. Each player must discard each event and asset from their hand with the printed resource cost of the numbers that were chosen. This can absolutely wreck people. Honestly, like this one is fun. I like this one because it's like, do I think anyone has any 1-cost cards? Or if it, yeah, or you're like, you don't have any money. You're not playing that 4-cost card anyway. I'll just name 4. Um, it's cool. I like it.
It is true. If you fail by 3, though, it sucks.
Yeah, because you gotta be like, I don't know.
0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, 0, 1,
Right.
2. Then it's a yeah. The choices are bad. Good card though.
It's a good call. It's cool.
Okay, nothing else is new, but it is worth saying that Crawling Mist.
Oh wait, we do have these.
Oh, Myriad Forms. Yes.
Yeah, because these shuffle in when when you get to the end part.
Thank you.
So yeah, Revelation. If there are one or more copies of Nyarlathotep in your hand, reveal them. Each one attacks you and is shuffled into the encounter deck. So again, it does give you a choice. If Nyarlathotep is in play, so that's a question. What happens if one of the enemies is in play?
So,
Does it do it to all of them?
oh, like
Because it doesn't say if a copy of Nyarlathotep is in play or something.
yeah.
Because surely this is supposed to refer to the monstrosity.
Yeah,
right?
it's referring to Act 5.
Yeah.
But if you have one in play because of like on the hunt,
Yeah. I mean, surely it's called Nyarlathotep, right? So I imagine it would happen to it. But would it happen to all of them is the question.
no, because I think they aren't considered to be in play, right?
No, I mean, like, if you have more than one of them, like if 2 people played on the hunt.
Oh, I don't know. Good question.
Yeah. No one knows.
This
I would
usually
imagine that it would do it to all of them.
this is tough. I feel like it probably gains surge more often than not.
Yeah,
For
that's
me,
true.
so that's good, but kind of tough to pull this.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
I was going to say the Crawling Mist is actually a little bit scarier here too because there's likely maybe 2 or 3 in your
Yeah.
hand.
Yep, there's a lot of hidden cards in this scenario, so can be huge.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the original law of how do you pronounce this again?
Igoroth?
Igoroth? Sure.
Igoroth? I don't know.
Yeah. So like I find, as I said before, that the scenario is this balance between like picking up the hidden cards, the right ones, going and doing those tests, and then the fighters clearing a path and going playing whack-a-mole with these guys.
Exactly. Yeah,
Because
because the Doom is really a problem. This
it's a
scenario, there's a
huge
lot of it.
problem. And you're
Yeah.
and since these go to empty locations, you're like, okay, I don't know, that other tower that no one's at yet. I'll spend 2 actions to move there and hit the acolyte. And
Yeah.
oh, by the way, I've got a dole in the way.
Yeah.
So not an easy scenario by any means. I think it's one of the toughest in terms of completing it, especially for the full clear Act 5.
Oh, absolutely. I think that like getting the full clear, the secret fifth act is definitely one of the hardest things in this game.
Hmm.
Um, I have personally never done it. And that being said, I think that actually doing just the fourth act is pretty reasonable. Like you have a lot of tools to do it. There is some variance on when you draw the cards and what cards as well. But it's definitely doable.
I think it's one of those ones where like I can regularly win, but I'm never sure, even based on my decks. Like I think this one, maybe there's like, other than the tech cards, there's like stuff that you can do in your deck or with your investigator that's especially good, but I
Yeah.
generally find it that part matters less. It's just, can I pass some random tests and can I get the right cards? And it doesn't really matter what your deck was doing otherwise.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, not a bad thing. It's just other finales I think are more heavily you're using your cards, your ability, and everything to get to the final get through the final objective.
Yep.
Okay. I guess we could look at the resolutions.
Yes. So obviously if everyone dies, then Nyarlathotep's invasion has begun. And you lose, but you need to keep on going if you still have scenario 4B to do.
Mm-hmm.
R1 is if the normal regular Act 4, I think, right? Yes. Um, Dreamers escape Nyarlathotep's grasp. You also get 2 mental trauma, but you also have a choice. You can either decide to wake up, or you can remain on the surface of the Dreamlands, or you can venture into the underworld to find your companions, only if the Dreamers know of another path. And I looked this up because I, for the life of me, cannot remember how you do that. It's in one of the interludes. The Black Cat needs to tell the Dreamer side of the underworld
Yeah.
at one of them. I
Oh,
think it's either the second one or the first one. I can't remember.
okay. Share knowledge of the underworld.
Yep.
So
And
you're making a guess here based on what you think is going to happen with the other group.
exactly. So in R3, the Dreamers awoke. R4, the Dreamers stayed at Dreamless River. R5, the Dreamers traveled beneath the monastery. And R2 is if you defeated Nyarlathotep proper in
Mm-hmm.
Act 5. The Dreamers banished Nyarlathotep. And you have the same choice on what you want to do with the Dreamlands.
Cool. That's it.
That is it. Yes, those resolutions, what you record, will matter for the very, very end, but not right now.
Mm-hmm. Pretty epic finale. I find this one cool and exciting to play through.
I think it's really interesting, at least, where it's like you have all these hidden cards and you're like trying to, especially good the more players you have, I think, because it just gets really fun where you're like, what am I doing today? Am I going to the Western Tower or not? And someone's like, maybe?
That's true. All right, I think we will jump right into our ratings for the different categories. Ready for that? Oh, you still there?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah. All right, ready to jump into our ratings?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So replayability here is, well, I mean, the first part is always the same, pretty much. The second part really is different. And we're talking about the second part being the go around to the towers.
Yeah. So obviously, the towers are different. There's 4 out of the 6, but also they're placed in different locations. You don't know where you're going. Also, you'll only get a subset of the Nyarlathoteps unless you're a 4-player.
Mm-hmm.
And because all of these things are in the encounter deck, there's the insane variance of when you're going to draw them, how you're going to draw them, who's going to draw them, you have to give it to other people. There's a lot of variance in this one.
Yeah, goal's the same, and there's not much, in terms of like I guess anything else, like the towers themselves are somewhat, I mean, they're not irrelevant, but you kind of just have to make do with what you have, I think, for the most part, which I think is good. Like, instead of, it is true that sometimes you like, oh, this was the really good one, or you even try to get some of them back if you get a encounter deck reshuffle. But I think it sort of teaches you that these are your options. You better make something of it.
Yeah, agreed. And also, I think that the as you said, the goal is the same. But yeah, there's a lot of reacting to what the scenario is throwing at you, and you really have to be like making quote unquote quick decisions where you're like, okay, that one is like good for me. That location is good for you. So if you ever draw the northern one, then let's come to the middle and try and give it
Hmm.
to me or stuff like that. So a lot of planning there.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that it is quote unquote planning with unknown knowledge because of the fact that you kind of have to not talk about the nihilist attempts in your hand. And also, in theory, the other hidden cards because that's part of the rules, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think I'm
so yeah,
gonna give this one. Okay, I would give this one a 4, but I'm actually gonna give it a 4.5 because it has this dream of the second or third playthrough. Maybe we'll actually get the final form,
interesting.
which is
I think
like kind of crazy high for this one, but
yeah,
I'm just gonna rate it that way. That's the way I feel right now.
yeah. I think I'm gonna go a little lower. I'm gonna go 3.5. Mostly because the difference of the scenario is basically just because of the variance,
Hmm.
rather than anything necessarily impacting the scenario, other than the ability to go to Act 5. So
That's true. I think it's tough for finales to do that just because, unlike, well, okay, some of them have like a couple of different paths, and that's pretty cool. But otherwise, they kind of have to keep it pretty stable. But like within the realm of possibility for this campaign, I think it's the most replayable of the 4 scenarios we've seen.
that's true. Yeah.
Anyway, let's go to the fairness. Ooh. So let's take away the cheese. I don't think
Yeah.
that's like part of the design.
No.
I think even MJ was like thrilled to hear about someone using On the Hunt, right?
Yeah.
She was like, "That's really cool," and I do think it's cool to have that, but not part of the design.
Yeah. I will say, okay, this is tough because the secret ending of the scenario is almost by design unfair, because that you have no time.
Hmm.
Um, the regular ending is fairly fair, I think. Um, you are generally going to have enough time. Yes, it's like a little bit. You have to deal with a lot of things like the acolytes and the doom and stuff. Um, but like it's definitely in the right area of pressure at least.
Hmm.
Um,
I,
but the secret scenario, by God, is really hard.
yeah, I think at 3 and 4 player, this is pretty fair.
Yeah,
2 is challenging, uh, and you're kind of at the mercy of did you draw all the right stuff? Because I don't think you just go through the encounter deck naturally that easily. And if you start spending clues or too many clues to draw more cards, you can get a mitt full of hidden cards that aren't the ones you want. It does happen.
yeah,
Um, and at 1, I think it's kind of unfair, but I've never tried it honestly, but I just hear loads of complaints about this one at 1 player.
yeah. And I think that part of that is that it's hard to mitigate the random elements.
Hmm.
Um, the only ways to do it are by investing more actions, and therefore it's harder at lower player counts to do that because there are less going around. Like the way that you're supposed to do it is by taking an action to spend a clue, or taking an action to give a card to someone else, or
Hmm.
actions to move to a different tower because you're not at the right one, right? So yeah, it's tough at lower player counts. I think I'll give it a. I think I'll give it a 3.5. With that take into account. Also bringing it down is the final scenario, but otherwise it's fair.
Okay, I'm gonna put it at a 3. Just a little bit. I think it's a little bit lower than that for me, but still pretty close. Okay. Yeah, the balance, as I mentioned before, I don't think matters who you are all that much. A little bit. Certainly, you need to have your fighters dealing with the enemies, and probably your people getting clues are going to do all of those willpower and intellect tests on most of the towers. So that seems like deliberate and fine, I think. But also because they kind of mix up some of the stats, you are basically just committing cards. You're not using an asset to do any of those tests. You're just using skills. You're using, I don't know, the stat boosts like the masks or something else. So you can, that's kind of what you're asked to do. I don't think that's unreasonable for basically anyone to be able to complete it.
Say there is some stuff about how a lot of like a lot of fighters can get their combat really high because of the weapons that they wield,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily because of their own stats. And so when it comes to some of the tests where you have to, if you have to fight Nyarlathotep, or like, I'm having a lot of trouble because I'm not actually shooting this thing. I'm like taking a combat skill test and have to commit a bunch of stuff. Which, as you said, is kind of what you're supposed to. But like, uh, I think that it's somewhat interesting because it kind of has that problem where it's like, it's the Duke problem where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't Duke my way to defeat a Nyarlathotep. Like, what is Ashcan P going to do, right? So there's a bit of that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Where,
right. Like there's the fight and evade ones, which basically are tough, right? Well, the fight one more than the evade one because you don't usually use an asset to evade either. So it, like I said, just comes to if you get a bad matchup too, right? If you get the Nyarlathotep that has a high whatever that value is, it gets even harder, right?
yeah, that's true. Which again is good, the reason why you need to be able to ferry them around, and another reason why True Solo is really hurting here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, yeah, I think it's mostly fine. Like everyone kind of has a thing to do, and a lot of them, everyone is like, I have high this stat. It's like, well, you're going over there because that's where we need you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's basically that as well. So as long as you have a team there where you have everyone has like a high stat, for example, I think that's really good because like for example, like someone who has like all threes, I think is going to struggle in this scenario. Um, unless they're like Charlie Kane, where they can do like, I can do one test, one turn successfully no matter what,
Yeah, that's
and then
really
nothing
good.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah. um, but like I can't, like, I don't know. Anyway, everyone, I'm sure at this point in the game, everyone has like ways to get their skills high. But I think it's definitely more easier for investigators who already innately have those high stats, which I guess is probably true about the whole game.
Probably true about everything, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so with that being said, I think I'll give it a 3.5 again. I think it's good, but not perfect.
Okay. I kind of agree with that rating. So I will also go 3.5. But just don't play Patrice.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I think the whole thing with finding hidden cards and then fighting them is pretty cool.
Yes.
It is new. And I don't think it takes away too much of like what the deck wants to do overall. I think there's still other things that you're doing, but getting clues and fighting enemies. Even though I just said a minute ago, like the way that you pass those tests is not using your um, assets in play for the most part. I think this is a cool wrinkle on the hidden mechanic throughout this entire campaign. So I like it.
Yes, I like it a lot. The only thing that does not put this at a 5 for me is the beginning part.
Oh, I forgot about the beginning part.
Because everyone does. Because I'm like, why are we even here and doing this? I understand we need to get to the honest gate.
Mm-hmm.
But like I legitimately, it feels so much like a time waster where like, if you don't do this part quickly, you're not going to be able to finish the next part. But you don't even know the next part, especially in a first blind playthrough. It'll be like, okay, well, we got here. This is the whole game, right? Obviously. I think that it does set up an interesting arc where, like, at the beginning, where you're like, okay, we're going to the thing. You're to find the great old ones, but no one's here. Boof. New scenario. I think that's a cool experience. But, like, especially in later replays, I really feel like that first part is almost unnecessary. Like, like, how, I don't know. Like, I felt like it could have been story text, which is kind of weird to say.
Do you think that
Um,
they maybe did it to help you set up before you got to this nonsense with a very different objective?
maybe like they could still do that with an agenda flip though. Like I don't know. Like they could have done that in multiple different ways.
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
Um, and
It.
like I don't know, it would even make like what if they focused all of their energy in this second part? Like they could have made it even more like I don't know, maybe more interesting. Like maybe there's multiple towers. Maybe you can like I don't know go through them different ways. I don't know. Like I don't know.
I agree. They could have made this first section just be, as you say, like the first three rounds and have an agenda flip, and then you get going. They've done that before. Well, later they've tried that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it's part of the story. There's the cool interlude, but yeah, we blew through that one because it was not particularly interesting to talk about. It's just go
No.
around, get clues, and there was no. You push a priest into a hole. That's the only thing that we have to say about that. That was
Yeah.
cool. But
Yeah.
that said, I think
So
I give this one. I don't know, like a 4 or 4.5. Where are you going with this?
I'm giving it a 4.5. The only reason it's not a 5 is because of the beginning. It's
Okay,
a 4.5.
all right. I go with 4.5 also. I think it's. I give major props for the idea, and I think the execution was uh good. Not the best. Like I think they could come back to this and do something else to help the lower player counts, but I think that it's a great experience just because the story and the idea overwhelms maybe the the fairness to me.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, that's the end of the dreaming side, which is called what again?
The Dream
The
Quest.
Dream Quest. There we go. We'll be back next time with the Web of Dreams, and then we'll do some final thoughts on the entire 8-part campaign. But maybe just a few notes about this one.
Um, yeah. So the Dream side, I definitely think is the quote unquote easier side of the Dream Eaters campaign. Maybe not necessarily this last scenario,
Hmm.
but definitely the first three. I also think that it feels more like they had a very specific story that they wanted to tell, and they set you up to tell that story in a very specific way. And I have to give props to that because there's like very very cool stuff going on with the Dreamlands. Definitely, it's a really cool location, and they're able to fill a lot of the Dreamlands lore into this part of the scenario, especially with Search for Gaddath.
Hmm.
And so, like ultimately, some of the scenarios definitely feel like they're on rails, especially the beginning of this one, Dark Side of the Moon, and Beyond the Gates of Sleep. But I think that it definitely is able to at least tell that story well.
Yeah, it is fun, I think, to play through. It's a little tiring after a few playthroughs and it loses some of that shine, but I think it would be probably better with 8 scenarios. I would have liked to see the story expanded a little bit more and give it room to breathe instead of having a lot of reading in between and on cards. But I
Yeah.
agree with your assessment in general. Cool. Let's come back to this next week when we talk about Weaver of the Cosmos. We have some spiders that we have left in the underworld, so we'll come back and talk about that one.